In Gwinnett County, after midnight, a 911 call occurred. Somebody had called saying that their son had been shot. The caller shared an address where the crime took place, Thompson Mill in Pebblebrook, behind a store. The first thing that we got to know about the victim is that it's a 15-year-old boy. He had been shot in his head and was barely breathing. What could have happened to a 15-year-old to deserve this? Anything could have happened. That's why Corporal Mitchell Pop and the whole team arrive at the crime scene, picking up clues. Unfortunately, the victim was rushed to the but the doctors couldn't have saved him. He died. Who was the 15-year-old boy? The victim's name was Brandon Harina. The victim attended Beaufort High School, where he was an excellent student. He was a good kid. Brandon played guitar, sang in the school chorus, and planned to study video game design in college. The first responders of the 911 call had found the victim's body on a trail behind a store. They didn't find any shell casings, but luckily, the team had secured Brandon's phone. You can learn a lot from someone's phone. The team was excited. Sergeant Shelley Millsap had good news, saying that he had the video downloaded from the store's security camera. The victim's family was still there at the crime scene. They still don't know that Brandon has passed away. So, Corporal Mitchell Pop goes there to talk to the victim's dad, who had called 911. The team tells the parents' victims that they still can't know what happened. The victim's father's girlfriend continued to speak, saying that they were lying in bed when suddenly, a friend of the victim rushed to their house and asked them for help. Then, she said they drove as fast as possible to the crime scene and saw Brandon lying on the ground. But the team had to tell the father and his girlfriend the bad news that Brandon had died from a gunshot wound. They couldn't believe it. They were crying. But the goal was to find who did that to Brandon, so the team let them calm down a bit and then started asking some questions. Corporal Mitchell Pop asked them if Brandon had ever smoked marijuana or anything like that. The victim's family said yes. They said that Brandon had been in trouble before and had been drug tested, but he had never failed the drug tests. Brandon was in drug and alcohol classes. But there at the crime scene, there was one of the victim's friends. His mother was sitting with him there. So Corporal Mitchell Pop needed to talk to that boy. He must know something. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks him if he saw when Brandon got shot, and the boy says yes. He asked him if he remembered what kind of gun the shooter had. He said that it had a long clip and was black and silver. The victim's friend said that the shooter and the victim were pushing each other. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks the victim's friend if he had a phone with himself. He says yes and then gives it to the team. The victim's friend also said that he had had a black book bag when the shooting had happened. He said that he had left the book bag at Brandon's house. But the team had other questions too and needed to take the victim's friend to the headquarters. He agreed. But first, Corporal Mitchell Pop needs to head to the victim's house and take that black book bag. It can be the answer to this whole crime case. But, unfortunately, Corporal Mitchell Pop couldn't find the black book bag. After some time, Corporal Mitchell Pop arrives at the headquarters with the victim's friend and his mother. Detective James Lawson was there too. But the team was feeling bad because the victim's friend still didn't know that Brandon had passed away. Corporal Mitchell Pop and Detective James Lawson start asking the victim's friend questions. He said that he had known and had been friends with Brandon for 2 years. Then, the victim's friend continues to tell about what had happened that night. He said that they were at Brandon's house. He noted that Brandon had said that he needed to pick up some things. Brandon said that he was going to Sam's. The victim's friend said they usually get some airheads and trolleys, which were candies. Then, he said that they started walking toward the gas station. He noted that Brandon didn't go to the store. He decided not to, and that's when they turned into that road when Brandon was shot. That road could also lead to Brandon's house. So, they decided to walk that road. The victim's friend says that a guy comes from Sam's all of a sudden. He said that that guy was staring at them all the time. That guy started saying stuff to Brandon, calling him ugly and stuff. Then, Brandon charged at him, and the guy seemed nervous and just shot him. The victim's friend said that when he saw that Brandon got shot, he ran to his house to call for help. But he said that Brandon didn't know who the guy was. The team felt like the victim's friend was lying and said he needed to tell the truth because they would either find out from the victim's phone or even from the surveillance camera videos. He seemed scared of this and said there won't be any trouble with Brandon. The team said no, and then the friend continued to tell the story, saying that when he arrived at the store, that guy reached out to Brandon, texting him on his Snapchat. He was meeting with the guy to sell him some weed. The victim's friend said that he had his bag on. He said they were waiting at the back store and then the guy showed up. But the guy was not giving the money for the weed. He didn't want to pay. Then the guy pulled the gun and took the bag. He said Brandon wanted to get the bag back and push the guy, but the guy shot Brandon. The team asked where did the shooter go. He said that he had run straight into the trail. The victim's friend said he had never seen that guy before and didn't know who he was. The team told him to describe the suspect, and he said that the black guy was skinny. Corporal Mitchell Pop and Detective James Lawson get out of the room and look at the surveillance video. 15 minutes before the 911 call, they saw that Brandon was behind at the store. His friend was there too and had the black backpack, as he had said. The team could see through the video that Brandon was nervous. He was walking left and right, but then the team notices something fishy. They noticed that Brandon's friend was the one who communicated with the suspect. He was the one on the phone texting with someone, not Brandon. The suspect doesn't appear on the surveillance video. The team searches for the other cameras hoping to see the suspect, hoping that they find something helpful. But nothing. Corporal Mitchell Pop and Detective James Lawson get back to the room where Brandon's friend was being held. They tell him that on the video surveillance, there was no suspect, and Brandon wasn't the one who was texting meeting with someone as he had said. They told him that he needed to tell the truth about what had happened. And then they say to him that Brandon was dead since he didn't know. But the friend was saying that he was not texting the guy. He said that he was texting a girl. The team asks him to show the text to that girl. The victim's friend opens his phone and starts running through his texts. The team looks at his text around the time that the shooting took place, and they see that the messages corroborate his story. The victim's friend said that if the team had Brandon's Snapchat, he could show that he was the one texting with the suspect. They take the victim's phone and find out that the suspect had blocked Brandon, and all the messages were gone. But it seemed like Brandon's friend just needed some time to talk. He says that Brandon mentioned that the suspect was coming from a friend's house in the neighborhood. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks for this address, and the witness gives it to him. He said that the suspect's home address was Arden Drive. The team asked him if he had anything else to say, but the witness said he had told everything he knew. The detectives head back to the neighborhood's friend's suspect address. They knocked on the door, but no one was answering. The team walks around the area to see if there are any security cameras, but there was nothing. No camera security. As the team was walking around that area, they came across some people, and they asked if they knew about what had happened to the 15-year-old, if they knew about the case. A man said that a red Mustang had parked there at the stop sign the other night. He watched the suspect get out of his car and walk toward the trail. The man said that he thought the suspect was trying to steal something, so he asked him what was going on. The man said that the suspect told him that he was waiting for his friend. The man said that after some time, he heard a gunshot. Then, some dude came running. The man said that it was a 2006 red Mustang. The man tried to describe the suspect, the driver, saying that he was blonde and had dreads. The other suspect seemed younger and had short dreads. He said that the suspect came running from the street. He said that a house near that has a camera. So, the team went to that house that the witness said had a camera and asked if it worked or not. Luckily, the woman said that the cameras worked. The team needed to see the video some minutes before the 911 call. They started looking at the video and noticed that there was a Mustang, but could hardly tell the car's plate number. Then, they see through the video that the driver of the Mustang gets out of the car, but the camera can't catch him. Then, after some minutes, they see a kid running. The kid had a bag in his hand, and it looked like he was running in the direction of the trail. But the team couldn't see where the driver of the Mustang went. But it was possible that he dropped him off just to turn around and park. After the team heads back to the headquarters, Corporal Mitchell Pop discovers several missed calls from the same number. He called the number, and the friend of the suspect answered. He reached out because Corporal Mitchell Pop had left his business card at his door. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks the suspect's friend if he can come to the headquarters and answer some questions. He agrees. After some time, the suspect's friend arrives with a relative. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks him what they knew about Brandon. The suspect's friend says that he only knows about Brandon because he used to stay over at his house, but he said that he wasn't there at the house when the shooting took place. He said that he stayed over at a friend's that night. He kept saying that he didn't know who did it. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks him if he knows anyone that drives a red Mustang. He says a name and says that that person has dreads with gold tips and is skinny. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks him if that guy would know Brandon. He says that he had given Brandon a ride before. Corporal Mitchell Pop gets out of the room and tells the team to search for the name of that guy, the guy who possibly picked the shooter up in the red Mustang. The team runs a search on the Mustang driver and can locate his address. Corporal Mitchell Pop gets a picture of the Mustang driver and tells it to Brandon's friend. He recognizes him immediately, but the team can't know for sure if he was involved or not. All they have for the moment is the red Mustang seen in the video. The clock was ticking, and the following day had arrived. Corporal Mitchell Pop received a call from a woman. The woman was saying that she knew about Brandon's murderer and wanted to talk to the team. The woman wanted to meet with the team but privately. They met up somewhere, and she started telling them what she knew. The woman said that the Mustang driver gave fake money to the victim's friend who was trying to sell weed. When he found that it was counterfeit money, the dude named Savian shot the guy. The woman said that the shooter was a guy named Savian and that the Mustang driver had a young child. She said that the driver fears that they will take him away from his son. The woman said that this was all that she knew, but this was enough for the team. Now they have to look after someone. The team got back to the headquarters and decided to look for this guy named Savian. They get informed that Savian was a 20-year-old black male and had a prior conviction for possession of marijuana, but the team had no idea where he could be. But luckily, the team got informed of an address where the red Mustang was seen. The detective arrives at the address but doesn't get close immediately. The team looked from far and saw two other males in the backyard where the red Mustang was parked. Then, SWAT moves into the house and takes the Mustang driver into custody. They take him to the headquarters, hoping that he would enlighten the case and tell precisely what had happened that night. They put him in the room, and Corporal Mitchell Pop starts asking him questions. He asked him if he knew who Brandon was, and he said he knew. Corporal Mitchell Pop tells the guy that there was video surveillance and an eyewitness who saw him and his car parked at the trail's end. Then he tells him that after the gunshot, the team has a guy on video running down the street carrying the victim's bag and getting in the car that this guy was driving. Corporal Mitchell Pop tells him that he needs to be honest and tell the team why that guy was there and why he got in his car. The Mustang driver doesn't say anything, and then he says that he wants to have a lawyer. Corporal Mitchell Pop says to him that he could get a lawyer if he wanted, but it was better if he would tell his side of the story. He was there. You can either be a victim or a suspect, said Corporal Mitchell Pop. Then, the driver changed his mind and began to talk. He said that he got a call from someone who couldn't say the name. He said that that person told him that he would buy some weed. That person asked him to give him a ride. He agreed, drove him, and dropped him right by a street. Then, the driver said that he turned around in the cul-de-sac and parked his car. Corporal Michael Pop asks him if he heard the gunshot, but the driver says that he didn't. The driver thought that that person was about to get some drugs and nothing terrible would happen. But then he says that that person gets back in the car. Corporal Michael Pop asks him what the person did once he got in the car. The driver said that the guy has had a bag with him and gave him some weed. He said that the guy told him to drive him back to his home, which he did. The driver was saying that he had no idea what had happened. Corporal Mitchell Pop tells the driver that he needs to tell this guy's name, so the whole team can stop and focus on him. The driver needs to think for himself if he is as innocent as he says that he is. But the driver said that he would not tell his name. The team could tell that he was scared. That guy must be very dangerous. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks the driver if he has any child, just as the woman said. The driver said that he had a son. He said that his son is going to be 2-year-old soon. The team says to him how would he react if someone shot his son to death, just like the 15-year-old Brandon. The driver seemed to be touched by those words and decided to tell the guy's name. He said that his name was Savion Dillard. Corporal Mitchell Pop asks him the address of Savion, and he gives it to the team, saying that he lives in the trailers. Corporal Mitchell thanks the driver for every information he had given but tells him that he was charged with armed robbery since he was the only one driving Savion. If he didn't drive him, none of this could have happened. But the team tells him that he can have a lawyer. The team transported the driver to the jail. Then Corporal Mitchell Pop take warrants for Savion for murder without wasting any time. The team decided to go to the location that the driver had given, hoping that they would find him there. They arrive at the location and start knocking on the door. One of Savion's relatives gets out of the house, saying that they haven't seen him. She was saying that Savion wasn't home, but the team couldn't leave the property without being sure. They go inside the house and search around. But the team meets up with two relatives of Savion, and they said that they had seen him some days ago. They said that Savion had a gun. When the team asked them what kind of gun Savion had, they said it was a black pistol, an extended mag. The team asked them if they knew where Savion was. They said that Savion was in Clayton County, Jonesboro, Georgia. They said that Savion had been staying with another relative. They gave him a call asking if he was home, and the relative said yes, that Savion was at his house. Corporal Mitchell Pop tells him to tell Savion that he needs to turn himself in since he was being charged with murder. Corporal Mitchell Pop called the U.S. Marshals to go and look over that address and see if they could find Savion. After some hours, the team gets a call from Savion's relative saying that somebody must have told him something because he was not coming back to the house. The caller said that he would do his best to find him. Then after some time, a tipster says they saw Savion in a Facebook photo taken in Wisconsin. Then, one of the marshals recognized an area of Green Bay that it was. They went to the place where the Facebook pic was taken. They went into that location and spotted the suspect. He was running, but the team could luckily take him into custody. Then, Savion finally got transported to the headquarters, and the team was ready to ask questions. The detectives get into a room and introduce themselves. Savion looked like he didn't care. He didn't want to talk at all. Corporal Mitchell Pop tells him that he was being charged with felony murder, a reference to the murder of Brandon. But Savion didn't care at all. He was playing with his dreads. He didn't agree to talk, but Savion Dillard was convicted of murder and sentenced to parole. The DA declined to pursue any charges against the driver of the red Mustang. It's crazy to think that there are people that can take innocent souls over pointless, stupid things. But justice is what stands in the end.